miles away from the camera, so I can't see if there's any comments. I'm Tina. This is a Cosmic Crone conversation. I think I need to go back a bit more, or maybe push. So, I'm live. I hope I'm live. I am at Yappy Valley. This is me, Tina, and no Marie, because Marie's in the UK. So it's just one crone having a conversation with you. So I had to think of what I was going to do off cuff, and it really is off cuff. I'm at the dog sanctuary here. This is Buddy. Hello, Buddy. And I was thinking about all the subjects we've done and all the input. Hello, Bailey. All the input that, you know, all my stories that I've given, and to round it up, where it all came from, really. And as far as I can remember, it all started when I was about 6 years old and my granddad died. I remember going to the funeral, but I also remember seeing him at the end of the bedroom. We was in a small flat and I lived with my nan and aunt and my mum. So it was an all-female household, so the dogs are having a squabble. Willow. Here we go. When the moss goes off, they'll all start yapping. When I was 6 and at this funeral, I saw everybody crying and mourning. I thought, why are they crying? Because Granddad's still there. I didn't understand the concept of death and that when you were gone, you were gone. But obviously I know that you're not gone. Then after that, you know, a year later when I was 7, I was still seeing him and he was saying things and I would literally see him, like if you want to call it a ghost, at the end of the bed. And there wasn't really any voice then. It was just image, you know, moving image. And a presence. There wasn't any voices coming in at that time. And then I moved on. When I went to primary school, I started using sacred geometry for stuff like I was in a race. I think it was like the 800 meters or something. And we were kids. And I would lay down, usually on the floor, on the rug, and pretend that I was surrounded by geometrical shapes and drawing in the power. I have absolutely no idea where I got the idea from. Nobody in my family was like that. My great nan read tea leaves, which was a common thing. I was brought up in East London. We were very, very poor. Then when I was, I think it was about 10, I kind of got run over but didn't. I fell in the road. I slipped actually before the car hit me and hit my back of my head. And I really don't remember the next few days. It completely wiped. But after that, I was going to school and something clicked in my head that I was seeing things like premonitions. Things were happening in my head, but they wasn't. And then I would just point out when I was walking to school with a friend, oh, you know, that person's gonna have a heart attack tomorrow and die, or someone famous. That was a good example actually. Someone famous. There was many I could name. An English comedian called Benny Hill. There was quite a few. Some of you would have recognised the names. It's not worth saying really. They were local English actors, singers. It was all within the UK, sort of surrounding area. Many local ones that were from London. I don't know why, but it would be like I would see them in a newspaper, see the newspaper article, and then the next day there was the newspaper article that this person had died. Sometimes I got it wrong. Sometimes it wasn't the exact name. Sometimes it was close. Sometimes it was completely different, but it still happened. From there, I would say I got my first divination tool at around 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. My mum bought me this thing. We had a book club and it was called the Osiris wheel, and it was Egyptian wheel thing, and you had to have these 12 houses, and that was my first type of divination. And then later on I got tarot cards and developed more awareness, and then things really started accelerating when I got the tarot cards thing. Things were happening when I was using the cards that in the end I didn't need the cards. They were just a tool just to sort of get me in the rhythm, and I would see things in the cards that the cards didn't mean. I did learn all the full meanings of the cards, and then I did lay with them one by one. I would meditate on each card every time I've got a new deck, and I've got a lot of decks because I love them, Oracle and Tarot. And we've developed our own decks as well. But each deck I like to familiarise myself with them and talk to the image in the card and come to life when I'm meditating. Meditation was another thing I didn't do till later on in life, really. I would say maybe in my 20s I started meditating, and my husband at the time, which is long time been an ex, he didn't like any of what I was doing. He was a bit religious, and I would have to hide stuff from him. And I found when I was pregnant with my first daughter that I really blew up when I was meditating, and the whole world opened up, and I just saw things differently. I did see death as not an ending but just a transition. And even then I remember once going to the Muse, Royal Muse, when I was young. I was lucky enough to do equine studies, and we went to the Muse to see the horses and did this dressage thing, and the Queen was there, and she was very scary. I'm not going to say much more, but her eyes were very black and very scary. And later on I did read and get into David Icke, and I thought that makes sense to me when everyone was laughing at him, and now everybody believes in reptilians, and I saw that with my own eyes when I was a child, and that was scary, and that was something that nobody else really saw. So is it something that I saw beyond the veil because I was more open? Maybe. There's a lot of things that just came to me from then on, because we didn't have the internet. I had a few books. I had a book called Doors to Other Worlds, which helped me connect with mediumship, and I'd gone along, going into the 20s, 30s maybe, I went along to a few of these what we call spiritual churches in London, and I was sitting in the audience. I've never ever got anything for me, but I was picking up things for other people, and a lady sat next to me, and I had to tell her something, and it was just bugging me. And what I've learned is you have to say it, even if it doesn't make sense to you. The first thing that comes into your head, just tell them. Just say it. And it was true what I said to her, and I had to run to the toilet when she went out to the loo and just follow her out. And I was building up, because it's embarrassing. You just to turn up to a total stranger and then say, excuse me, but this and that. And she was glad that I said it, and we had a nice chat, and there you go. With the tarot, when I was working at different places, I found that I'd moved different jobs quite a lot. I got very bored very quickly, and I would always take my cards to work and do readings for people, and then I'd find that I'd done something good for them, gave them advice, and then I got bored with the job and moved on. So I think that was a kind of fate thing that was my journey to help other people along with tarot. Skipping many years, I guess, going into, I dabbled at psychometry. It's just, everything just happened randomly. I didn't train for anything. This remote viewing come out. It's quite an old thing, but I again never heard of it because I'd never had the internet. But I would jump to scenes. There was one when I was in England. I think it was about 20, maybe 20 years ago. I was in UK and I saw this. I was walking the dogs in our park and suddenly stopped. I'm awake. Saw this helicopter. I think a crash into a building. And when I got back, it was on the news and it was live. And I said to my partner, like, that I was just there, and it was in Scotland, and it happened. There was premonitions where, going back to teenagerhood, we was on a train and this dark feeling came over me, and I was with a friend and I said, we have to get off this train, everyone's going to die. And they all sort of looked at me a bit strange. And yeah, we got off the train and it crashed at Clapham Junction. That was another occasion, and we heard that on the radio where we was going to a horse market. So yeah, that was quite a big thing, and my friend used to call me like the Queen of Doom, whatever it was, because it was we'd meet and go to school every morning, and then she'd say, well, what's going to happen today, who's going to die today, like, and then I'd tell her. It just became a normal thing. So okay, jumping back to later on in life, after I'd had the kids, I've always been creative, been an artist, writing. So I think that kind of comes with the psychicness. It's about being open and being creative and just open to anything. And I am open to anything. I don't believe in religions because I've researched them and because I've looked at evidence and looked into things like that. And I did go through a stage where I had a Bible and I would read it, but I never belonged to any groups. I never felt like I needed to belong to any group. Even when I was learning stuff myself, I did it all myself. And I think learning and becoming more aware and more present, it's inner. Some people can, Marie always says, oh, you can, join groups to help you, but I feel for me personally it's an inner thing, and I think it's about being alone and being quiet. And the couple of podcasts that we've been doing lately about 0 point field, and it's about being quiet and having nothing. As you can see, I've got the beautiful mountains behind me. Of an evening, the sky is full of stars. It's amazing, and it's so peaceful here that I can do this in nature. There's no internet interference, there's nothing. So it's how I was when I was a child. We didn't have all these Wi-Fi masts and stuff. There is one way over there in the mountain somewhere at the top. But if internet's bad here, and it usually is, it means I haven't got much Wi-Fi around. So I'm hoping that this is actually working. I haven't got a clue, but we'll soon find out. Maybe let me know. There's something on the screen. Oh, nothing. It says top fans. Okay, you got a strange image of me then. I'm gonna sit down again. So after I divorced as well, I was allowed to do stuff because it was always hidden before and repressed, and it was freedom. It was a part of my life where I let go and was able to be myself. really, which I was repressed a lot with that. Because my childhood, I wasn't. None of us were religious. None of my family were religious. We never had that. I never had that as childhood. I was never pressured into anything. So I was open to try things out, and I did. And then coming here, I met Marie recently, the past few years, and we've been doing this podcast together. I got dragged her in. It was her idea actually, and with my experience of different experiences of things, you know, seeing alien beings and entities and so much in meditation with remote viewing. Like I would say that helicopter crash was, I was remote viewing. I remote viewed the moon, and I don't sit down and do it. And me and Marie have tried it, but I feel like when you force it upon yourself, for me it doesn't work. So I just randomly could be doing something and something would happen. I don't ask it to. I don't sit down and I, I, I don't have clients as a medium that would sit down. Can you, you know, contact my granddad or something? I wouldn't be able to do it. I really wouldn't. But it's just that sometimes when I'm doing tarot, bang, someone will come out, or someone will be there, and then I will have to say what I have to say. Whether it makes sense or not, maybe it will later on. I just let them take what they will with it. But more recently, I've been more looking at with Stephen Greer and the CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is contact. And for me, a lot of the stuff that's trending, I was doing years ago, that it didn't have a name. You know, I was doing remote viewing very, very young. I was doing psychometry, picking up objects, feeling where they came from. Even, you know, with rocks, with wood, and then going on to possessions. When I was pregnant, with my second child, I used to play with the pairs card. Used to get the kids little cards with the pictures on, and I would take out all the single ones while the baby was asleep, turn them all over and try and see without seeing what the pictures were. And I would do it with playing cards, maybe pick out all the black playing cards and pick one red one, shuffle them, turn them over, and then look for that red one. And I did get to the point where I would be using the whole deck of playing cards to pick out maybe like the ace of spades, and twice I think I actually done it. So with practice, that type of thing, it is practicing with your brain, your mind, should I say, not your brain as an object, but your mind. And I've actually tried, you know, moving stuff, which never really worked. The levitation thing never really worked. So I've dabbled in it. I've tried everything. I used to take my kids ghost hunting. We'd go into graveyards and see orbs and things. Yeah, my kids had a lovely childhood, and they're grateful for it. You know, they had a good childhood. They had a laugh, and they're not scared of anything, and they understand. And I think that's important, teaching your kids to understand about life and not indoctrinating them into Max. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but there's something going on. It could be that the mosque, I have no idea at the time, it could be that the mosque will go off soon and they'll stop howling. So, yeah, there are so many things that I could say, and I probably can't remember. There's a lot of things that have synced in life, that if you go over all the other pods and hear all the different stories, all the different subjects with past lives. I delved into past lives when I was at school, by accident. Again, it wasn't something that I went out and thought, oh, I'm going to look at past lives. It was something where I picked up a book about the American West, and I'd already started training my horse. I was 14 years old, it's when I had my first horse, and about training them with the American way, not the English way with English tack. And I don't know why. And now I understand why, because my past life I was in the American West, and for me it was just a natural thing, and I had a natural way with horses. So that that made sense. And this book I opened, there was a picture of a guy that I knew. I knew his name. I remember being familiar with him. I remember having a child with him. And that child is now my spirit guide, or one of my spirit guides, but she's my main one. And she's called Anne. Really boring. Sorry, Anne. And she's been in many other names, but I know her as Anne. And she does look down on me. And yeah, we've been through, obviously we've been through things in a life before, but I also remember being a victim of Jack the Ripper, or people, um and not one of the named ones. You know, a lot of people say they were famous people when they had a past life, and no, I actually, that, yes, it was a famous person that killed me, but it was, I was one of the unknown victims, and there were, I think, three more, or I was the third unknown one. So they were, and they started out getting better and better at what they were doing, and I think there was a few screw ups with that, but yeah, another story down a royal line, which, yeah, is not my cup of tea. Other past lives, I remember being a tree, and a lot, I've heard people say, oh, you know, you only come back as a person, but maybe beforehand, years ago, I was a tree before I became a human. I remember being on another planet as another being. I remember being being a wolf. I grew up as a child, and I used to lay in my dog's bed when I was about 7. I would sleep with the dog. I would be a dog even before we had a dog. And then I think that's probably fit. They thought, oh, I think we better get her a dog. So yeah, and here I am now, living the dream. And I went through a stage where nothing was manifesting, but you know, when you look back, my ultimate goal was to live off grid in a mountain or by the sea, and it was for my mum as well. Sadly, she passed away and never got to see it, but you know, she may be seeing it now, I'm sure she is. And I haven't got that contact with my mum that I wanted, and that's disappointing. Maybe it's too personal, maybe I'm trying too hard, maybe there's emotional blockages there, because there was a lot of negative things that happened around my mum's death. And then my dad's, hello, this is Bailey Backfink. Yes, look, show your ears, Backfink. Yes, big skinny mini. And so to wrap it up, I am living the dream. Look, yes, I am living the dream. Not quite where I want to be at the moment. I need to get the house built. I need to do some things here, but look, you know, I was living on a council estate in East London. Who would have thought I would have got to this point? So I see myself as rich, and I more or less have my health. I am struggling because I don't have a Jeep at the moment. It's broken. And I am struggling to make ends meet. I don't need a lot of money, but obviously the dogs do for dog food. And you can donate to SOS Dogs 2017 at outlook.com on PayPal, or you can go to Yappy Valley, a YouTube channel, and see what I'm doing here and support us. I will put a link for our GoFunders. And I make my money doing crafty stuff and artwork, which I enjoy doing. Again, it's about creating, and then it's that vision, you know, drawing that vision and making that vision come true in the paintings. So I'm going to wrap it up now. If Marie is watching, hello Marie in sunny London, which I know it's a little bit sunny, but I bet it's freezing. And so I'm sitting here as the evening's drawing in shorts and getting flies all over me because I haven't poo picked. There's poo everywhere. Right, so I'm going to round off, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. And please do go and look at our other episodes, and if you've any ideas on what I can do next week, or maybe I can try and get hold of Marie, please let us know in the comments below, and I hope to see you on our next episode soon. See you soon. I've got to get up now and I to turn it off.